What's going on, New Breed? This is Nick, and this evening we are talking about something that is so near and dear to my heart because it is something that I have walked through for many years. And I feel like I've just recently, within the past couple of years, actually gotten an understanding on this topic and on how to kind of practically walk these things out. And so that's my hope for you guys, that this wouldn't be taken in any kind of offense. This would just be matter of fact. And yeah, so prepare your hearts, my men. Here we go. When we live in a perpetual state of sin and have these bad behaviors that we just cannot get victory over, these are strongholds in our lives. And we all have these areas of our lives where we feel like no matter what we do, we just can't get victory in these areas. And living in these states of perpetual sin, it's one of the most frustrating places that you can live in. Because you see God moving in other people's lives, but over on your end and my end, it's dead silent. And there's no movement, and we don't know why. Why? Living in a place of recognizing my sin and not being able to change it is maddening. And I either had no willpower to change it, or the process of change was just so overwhelming that I just couldn't deal with it. The process of coming clean about things, the process of cutting things out of my life, all that seemed so intimidating and overwhelming that I would just tuck it down, not deal with it. So there would be times where I could change my behavior in my strength, but inevitably I would fail. And what would happen was, when I would fail or go back to my drugs or go back to infidelity or whatever it was, I would go deeper and harder. And then this would happen over and over and over again. And when I got tired of fighting these battles, these losing battles, then I would just start making excuses for them, like, this is just who I am. I have just accepted that this is a part of me. This is my DNA. These actions, they're not really my fault because it's just the way I'm wired. That's just what I desire. I can't help that I want what I want. But this is how my life spiraled downhill and out of control. Every time I would try to fight these sexual temptations or try not to use, or at bare minimum just be an honest person, I would inevitably fail in my strength. And the problem wasn't really lying in my addictions. The problem wasn't really with my sexual appetite. It was not that I was just wired this way. The problem was the strength that I was fighting in. In my time of need, I turned to myself. The same moron that was failing at every turn, for some reason, I still thought I had the power to change and the strength to take these battles on my own. Not with any brothers, not with my wife, not with any church family. There was no church family to speak of. Just me, myself, and I. The same dude that's doing all the screw-ups is the same dude that's going to fix that guy. It doesn't make any sense. So if we don't realize, and this is really the point of this video, we have to realize that our victory is found in Jesus. And Jesus alone, nothing else. John 14:6 says, Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. And yes, this is obviously speaking of eternal life and salvation, but I think this is also speaking to experiencing the Father and all of his goodness right now, here on earth. That's why he tells us to pray, "Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come and your will be done." Jesus has to be the one to fight our battles. We have to live a life of unadulterated submission to Christ. And we have to live in unadulterated submission to his ways, the ways that he has taught us and demonstrated how to live our lives, how to conduct ourselves. It is not good enough just to acknowledge that Jesus is who he says he is. And we're not talking about salvation. We're talking about discipleship. We're talking about being hungry and being on fire for God. You can say a prayer and believe that Jesus is your Lord and do nothing else and probably slide into heaven. That's actually a good debate, because when you really get saved, there should be a heart change and our lives should look completely different. We should look like we're living set apart. But that could be a different topic. So, saying it's not good enough just to acknowledge Jesus, if we want to experience the freedom in these areas where you just cannot seem to conquer, then you have to learn how to surrender and live holy. And like we just said, holy just means living set apart, living differently. That's where that freedom is. We have to be living different lives than the world to get different results than the world. We can't participate in the same things that they participate in and expect God to bless us the way he blesses people that are completely and utterly surrendered to him. It is not God's responsibility to keep us free. That's on you and that's on me. And I didn't mean to rhyme that, I promise. I didn't mean to. But let's say this. If alcohol is a problem for you, then you don't get to be around alcohol. You don't get to keep it in the house. You probably shouldn't go to restaurants until you can control yourself. If drugs are a problem for you, you should not be anywhere where drugs will be present or that you will have access to them. There are these practical things that we are responsible for. It really boils down to, how bad do you want this? Like, what does living for Jesus actually look like to you? What does that mean to you? These things may seem extreme to people who are either not believers or people who, we're just going to call them church members. We are not these people, guys. Anyone who's listening to this, I promise, they're disciples. We're hungry. We don't want to live the same. We want to live set apart. We want to live holy. We cannot be upset because God is not moving in our life if we look at our lives and we have these areas that are not under control. We don't have them in check. We are not accountable for them. But nothing should be too extreme when it comes to the end result is you being close to your Creator. You being in full submission to your King. And no, we don't care what people think about that. We are not going to settle for the lackluster church member mentality. We are men of God and we are disciples of Jesus, and we need to fight as such. We need to set our lives up to demonstrate that. We need to set our lives up to make sure that it resembles who we serve, who we are representing. It is not enough just to be a Sunday morning seat filler and expect God to do all this miraculous work, you have to be dedicated. You have to be sold out. You have to live holy. You have to live set apart. Our lives should look so different. The entertainment that we partake in needs to look different. The music we listen to needs to be different. What brings us joy needs to be different. People need to see that we drink from a different well. We are full of something completely different. And it's when we get to that place where we're that surrendered and that submitted that God is able to use us in these mighty ways. God is able to move and change our hearts. That's when his will is able to move through us. But it is not an easy walk. It is a fight. It is a fight. But we should be growing within that fight. We should be growing closer to him. We should be growing in relationships. We should be growing and getting stronger in the areas that we struggle in. If you are stagnant in an area of your life, then let's deal with that. So, I hope that doesn't come off as crazy. That was like a 10-minute ramble and rant, but how bad do we want this, guys? I want to be close to my Creator. I want every piece of freedom that he has to offer me. I want to fulfill every call that he has for me. And I know the only way that that's going to happen is if I am taking responsibility for my actions. Oh, and here's another good point real quick. We don't get to complain. I had to learn this the hard way. We don't get to complain about consequences of our actions and somehow blame it on God. Listen, God is a just God. And he doesn't just tell us that there's consequences for our sin. He promises that there will be consequences for it. My consequences were I almost lost my entire family because of my choices. So we don't have that right. We can't knowingly sin and not expect the consequences. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, we'll finish there. I love you guys. Keep fighting that fight, man. It's worth it. It's worth every minute of it. Even when it's frustrating and you feel like you're making no progress, submit every day, every minute. Be prayerful, be watchful. And we will see victory, guys. You will see victory in that area. But yeah, we need each other. So stay connected, my friends. Peace.